Okay. Wow, sorry about that. Of course, perfect timing, Murphy. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Adoption Happy Hour, brought to you by NAAP. We are the National Association of Adoptees and Parents, where it is our mission to elevate our diverse voices by promoting dialogue, understanding, and healing through education, awareness, and connections. I'm Marcie Keithley, your host for the evening, along with Jennifer Falsing in the Zoom room. Beth will not be joining us this evening. And we got a couple little disclaimers here. We want to remind everyone this is a public meeting with no guarantee that information or identity is confidential. Portions of this event are recorded and may be shared in our private happy hour group on Facebook and shared on our YouTube channel. If you're joining us for the very first time, please make a note that you do want to join the Adoption Happy Hour Facebook group, because that's where this replay will be listed at later. Please remain on mute, and you're welcome to post your questions or comments, but we will be closing the recording at 8 o'clock and open it up to a Q&A at that time. If you're experiencing a serious mental health event or suicidal thought, please contact a licensed professional or the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline by dialing 988. Okay, so let's get on with happy hour. Again, welcome everyone. If you're just joining us a little bit late, make sure that you have reached out in the chat room and let us know how you identify, what country, what state, and say hello to our guest. Let's just learn a little bit about her this evening. Emma Stevens is also known as Linda Pivac, finding her true self despite all odds in the gathering place. She is a U.S. domestic adoptee from birth and has survived layers of trauma that have put her on multiple journeys. She developed the inner strength and courage to surmount the many struggles she faced. Her traumas were born from first being relinquished and then becoming an adoptee who struggled with being forced to wear an impossible mask of playing the part of the good adopted child. Her childhood upbringing of an authoritative, cult-like family predisposed Emma to several more struggles. One of them was falling prey to an exploitative therapist, where she unknowingly entered a cultic one-on-one relationship with her psychologist. Someone who was to help support and provide healing instead held Emma captive in a psychological nightmare. Because of these traumas, it's Emma's desire to be part of the movement that is dedicated to help bring forth change to the way our world views the needs and support of adopted individuals, as well as being awareness of the exploitation that can occur by the hands of counselors, therapists, and other healthcare professionals. By sharing her experience of being exploited by her abusive psychologist and social worker, Emma feels strongly to expose and bring light to what an unethical, boundaryless professional therapy situation may look like. She has an undergraduate degree in journalism and has completed master's level coursework in psychology, specializing in marriage, family, and child counseling. She has 2 adult children and 2 cat children who she adores. So let's welcome Emma, also known as Linda, to Adoption Happy Hour. Hey, Linda.
Hey, Marcie and everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to your Friday happy hour. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're real excited. I know you and I talked months ago about having you on, and at that particular time, we had a little bit of hesitation. So I'm so glad, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, won't we? About how you ended up here tonight. But so how we met. Let's start off right there.
Oh, okay. Well, the first time I met you in person was last April, or was it March, at the Untangling Our Roots conference, the summit in Louisville. And it was the first time I got to meet quite a few people. It was just like, I felt like I was, looking at movie stars and, I want to meet them. I want to meet them. And then I remember we were in one of those sessions together, and I turned around and introduced myself. And that was the first time I met you. It was a fabulous time there at the summit.
It was great. Yeah, we're still humming. We're still on a high from that. It was a great summit. So yeah, it was real exciting to see everybody and combine those communities. So
that was
great.
The first time. I was just telling you, the first time I ever really entertained the idea, or actually even was aware of how big our group has gotten and all the commonalities that we share. And that was just really terrific to think of. We are just getting stronger every day.
Yeah, and it's just real important that, we all stay plugged in and are able to attend conferences, summits, groups like this evening, other
Right.
support groups. It's just really, for those of you who've never been to a summit or a conference, just like the one that we're getting, well, ours is a little mini meetup that's coming up, but that still is an opportunity to get together with your peeps and share. And then we've got Cup coming up. So it's just really important to stay plugged into the community so you can continue your healing journey. So let's talk about your story. You want to go ahead and just start sharing your story a little bit with us, and let's go from there.
I'm laughing because when you started and said that you can't guarantee that someone's anonymity might be blown and that, you're here by your own risk. And it made me think, oh my gosh, I don't have to worry about that anymore. When I talked to you first was probably 2 years ago after I just finished writing The Gathering Place. And we were trying to figure out, how can you have someone on happy hour but can't be seen? Would I just have my logo? And we tried to figure it out and it just didn't work. And now I've become completely unveiled, and I'm so happy because it's just not fun to go incognito and just not, carrying a secret. And I was asking other people, podcast hosts, to carry my secret. I don't have to do that anymore. So very happy about that.
Just be you. Just be you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit. Yeah, go ahead and share a little bit about your story.
Okay, as you already mentioned, the long stream of things, so I don't have to repeat the U.S. domestic, same race, adoptee from the baby scoop era, but it was just a fairly typical adoption, I think, for that time period of the 60s, where my adoptive parents bought into the scenario of the blank slate baby. And they were, pretty much wanting my brother, who was also adopted from another family. They wanted to turn us into them, and we were to revolve around them. So it was just taboo to really talk about our adoption story, because if we did, it highlighted to them that we came from somewhere else. And so there was no lifting up of my heritage or my lifeline of where I came from. In fact, it was kind of diminished of, you don't want to be like those people that gave you up. Now we're here to save you. So that made it difficult, and it became an identity crisis for me. I think it did for my adoptive brother too. But the way I handled it was I was a curious child, and they didn't like that either, because someone that's curious and tenacious was not really easily fit into their mold. So there was always that constant struggle of, we want you to be this. And so then I learned to kind of adapt to what they wanted me to be, but tried to be myself at other times. Got really confusing. And then I kind of forgot who I truly was. So I became the adaptation of who they wanted me to be. And now that I look back, I can see how adoption colored my entire life. And what I mean is, from every relationship I've ever had, from work situations, from just all my life decisions. And how could it not be? Because I don't know anything other than what it feels like to be an adoptee. And I'll be an adoptee for all of my life. But I did go on multiple journeys. It was not a linear path to healing. In my books, I talk about how there were many struggles to overcome. But finally, I feel that I have made friends with, or befriended, my adoption angst is what I call it. And now I don't let that part of me drive my bus, but it takes a lot of awareness. And through writing those 2 books, it really helped me get in contact and get connected with, to find me again, because I'd lost me.
Yeah. Those personal struggles.
A lot of personal struggles.
A lot of personal struggles. So where did the writing come in? Obviously, you decided to write a book. You ended up writing 2 books. which, by the way, we're going to have a drawing, Jennifer, for 2 books. So we'll need to pull out 2 names for the end of the evening that you're going to autograph and send out to 2 lucky
I'd love to.
winners. So what prompted your writing? When did you decide you wanted or needed to write a book?
It really started way early. It was a way for me to communicate with volatile adoptive parents. I would go to my room as a child as soon as I could, learn how to write, and I'd write them apology notes of thinking this is what they want to hear. They want me to apologize. I want everything to be okay. But through that, I learned how to get in touch with what do I feel and what's language to put on paper so I can be effective and try to get them to hear what I have to say. And I think it really helped me practice how to do that. And so that continued all through childhood, and then went into college. As an undergrad was journalism. And but as far as writing the books, it just hit me like a bolt of lightning around the pandemic. I think it was about that time. And I got a writing coach, and I had started to dabble in the Facebook groups, and I started coming out of the fog of everything from who I thought God was, who I thought I was, who I thought, just this life is all about, the human condition. And then the books just started flowing out of me. And that's the best I can say, is that I learned a technique in psychology of how to tell my story. I mean, a lot of people have facts. We all could just write a diary, but until you learn a way to put it on paper and have someone make it be interesting to your reader, when you find that, then boy, you can just wrap everything you know about your life around it and make it into a story. And I'm hoping it worked. I think it might have. My objective was not to be a blockbuster seller. It was to touch other people that say, you told my story, and thank you, because it's helped me connect the dots of my own life. And that's just so great to hear. And that's why I wrote those 2 books. The second one is a cautionary tale, because as we tell a lot of adoptees, go get some counseling, start there. But I need to say, whoa, before you give your life over to someone and become vulnerable with them, which, by the way, you have to be in therapy for it to work, but make sure you're going to a reputable therapist, doctor, counselor, and you can interview them. You don't have to stay if you don't like them. You can fire them. So that's why I wrote the second book. Is there's a lot of unreported abuse that goes on. And I want adoptees to know that counseling is great. Therapy is great. I'm a big proponent, but you have to make sure you're in a safe place.
So the writing journey, again, started when you were a child and you were writing letters of apology to your adoptive parents as a way for you to cope and survive. And then when you decided to write, which was during COVID, you referred to these, you still had these letters, or you were just saying that helped you with the skill?
Yeah, I think it was the skills that I practiced and was able to do a body scan and identify. It's one thing to feel something. You have to identify it and then put it into language. Then you have to put pen to paper and put it down on paper. And so there's a whole big science behind writing to heal. I was fortunate enough to be a facilitator at a retreat recently, and it was all about writing to heal. It wasn't about how to write your memoir. It wasn't about, do a blockbuster. It's that any of us can open a notepad and just meditate, free flow. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking? And it helps you get to know yourself better. So through all of that practice, I do believe I was able to write those 2 books. And I had a lot of help. I had a writing coach, had an excellent editor, and Amazon made it pretty darn easy to self-publish. They have formatters, the whole 9 yards.
Yep. So as you were writing, what surprised you the most about that? What did you uncover by starting the process of writing that really surprised you and kind of went, oh, you had to kind of sit back and think about that a little bit?
I think with trauma, and I've heard this and read this, that a lot of memories get forgotten because you don't want to face them, and you want to store them in your basement in a box in the corner. And when you start opening those boxes and dealing with stuff, then that's when you really start to heal. So I really think that was another way that I wrote those books, because I just got to a point in my life where I couldn't ignore the trauma anymore. I had to start dealing with it. And there was a huge catalyst in my life that, of all the other things, the multiple journeys weren't enough. This one catalyst that happened 7 years ago really brought me to my knees. And it was a do or die situation of, I'm either going to continue with life, or I'm killing myself. I mean, not literally, but sort of, just because you won't face anything. My brother had an early death because he never faced his adoption trauma, and how he couldn't see what was happening and how to help himself. He never learned how to be his own best friend.
Many of us have practiced this avoidance behavior. It's like kicking the can down the curb, down the road. I'll deal with it later. I'll deal with it later. I'll pretend it never happened. And I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I hear that all the time.
Yeah.
But you're really not, because it comes back.
It does.
And when you're writing like that, and to back up to what you said a little bit earlier too, I found this out when I was writing my own personal story, is that you can really, you're moving through a scene, or you're moving through a chapter, and you think you know what you're writing, and the fact that an old trauma that maybe you didn't remember all of a sudden comes straight at you, and all of a sudden you're detouring from where you thought you were going to be writing, what you were going to be writing that day, because those thoughts do come back to you.
It was so
therapeutic. Was surprising for me. That was just like, I remember that so vividly, that it was like, wait a minute, where am I? All of a sudden I was in a different place than I had started out for that day to write.
It's really amazing how the brain, or unconscious, wants to protect us. It's a very amazing thing. And then when it feels that you're ready to remember these things, and kind of feed it in a little at a time, and you start to really remember. And if you're truly ready, then you start being a researcher and scratching and clawing to get to the root and the core of everything. And that's what happened to me. I was willing to remain willing to face, because I knew it was not doing, I was burying myself in a grave. And so I really had to pivot and do something different. And writing the book just helped me remember a whole lot of things. What I also did is I listened to music at the time that things were occurring, and that triggered a lot of memories. Because who can, everyone here could probably say what you were doing when a certain song came out, or where you were at this particular time. And it really jogs your memory to think, I haven't thought of that in years. And it helps you.
Yeah, music will definitely jog your memory.
Or going to a place where a trauma occurred. I did that one time, and it helped me write about it. So I use a lot of tools to help me get in the mood, if you will, to access those memories.
Yeah, and it's just important that we all find out what's going to work for us. I mean, there were times where I didn't want to listen to music. I didn't want to have it. Then there were other times that I really did. It just depended on what I was writing and how I was feeling at that particular time.
Yeah. And the beauty is that you get to reach in your tool bag and say, okay, I don't want to listen to music this time. It worked last time, but this time maybe taking a walk in nature is what will connect me. And the more you are willing to do that, then you've got a whole lot of different modalities that you can access.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the gathering place. Let's talk about that, and your group.
Right. I have a group on Facebook that's titled the same, The Gathering Place. And the definition is that it's a safe place for all of us to come and gather. I invite people to share anything they're writing at the time, a blog or a podcast, And sometimes I really like to lift other people up. And if I hear a podcast that I enjoy, I'll put it on my page and say, oh, you've got to listen to this. The essence of this is terrific. And so the page is just I try to monitor it very carefully because there have been a few moments where I've had to step in and clean it up, and say, that's not what we do here. You have to stick to the rules. But everyone is pretty good about that. And I really enjoyed that page. It was funny how it developed because I didn't even know that I'd started the page. I was not very tech savvy. And then all of a sudden I started seeing, like 6 months later after I started it, oh, I've got 6 new members. And then it became, oh, I've got 20. And then it just grew and grew to where I'm getting close to 800 now. And I started it by accident. So I loved it so much that I really started paying attention to it and inviting more and more people there. And so how it relates to my book, The Gathering Place, here I'll show you a visual. Here's the hardcover. And I found this visual, I think I found it online, it was Unsplash, where people put their pictures on for free. And I asked the gentleman that took the photograph if I could use it on a book cover. And he said, absolutely, as long as you give me credit for it, inside the book, which I did. And it just spoke to me when I was starting to write my book, and which happened at the same time that I got a new therapist that does EMDR. And if anyone doesn't know what EMDR is, it's connecting your right brain, left brain memories to integrate them. And that's when you really start to have memories that you thought were lost, and you start connecting the dots. And so once I had this place in my mind of under the tree with the swing, and I had the EMDR, all of a sudden I knew exactly how to dress my Christmas tree. Think of the Christmas tree as being the structure. My facts about my life were the structure around the tree. And that helped me really just write it very quickly. And how I wove the whole book together is, if you've heard of IFS, internal family systems. And it's all about how you go back, and current day, obviously we can't really talk to our 6-year-old, but we can talk to the 6-year-old that's still in us, that comes out a lot. And you can have a talk with them and say, I'm so glad you're here. It's really important you're here, and I'm here to help you, and let's have a chat. All my parts are welcome. And so what I do in the Gathering Place is I go back and visit my infant self, my child self, my teenager self, my college self. And I think it really worked for a lot of people, because people identified with getting in touch with their inner younger selves, and how present day it's really important to love yourself and give yourself the grace that all your parts are welcome, and not to hate, I hate that part of myself. No, they're there for a reason, and they were there to protect you when you're younger. Maybe they're not doing it the way they should now, but that's why your adult talks with them and you work out a plan.
Yeah. It was interesting. I remember when I was in therapy how they used the room structure of taking 5-year-old Marcie and 16-year-old Marcie in a room. So they had me visualize my home, and these younger versions of myself were there in the rooms when I needed to go there. And it was really interesting.
And that's something you can take with you.
Exactly.
Not just for that one sitting. You can now be aware. Awareness is key. Like, this feels like a younger part of myself. If you're acting out, or if you're reacting to a situation at work, and you stop and think, who's talking right now? And it helps you diffuse it quicker if it needs to be. And it helps you identify, I know who's here right now. And it's a way to get out of it faster. Or even a panic attack, how to talk yourself down at a faster rate. My feet are on the ground. It's 2023. I'm in this room. And so you're more in the present than letting that spiral into a past memory.
Yes. Yes. So, and the gathering place. Now, how long did it take you to write that?
I'm sorry to say it just didn't. Okay, it took me all my life to write that is really the answer. But to put it on my laptop, maybe 6 to 8 months. And then you add on editing, which took a while, and then formatting. So I'd say a good year or so before it was published. But I'm a tenacious sort. So I got, after I knew how to tell my story, I got after it. It was all I could think about. It was like just jumping out of me. And then it wasn't until, I don't know, 6 months later, after I wrote The Gathering Place, I thought there was a situation in The Gathering Place that I thought, I haven't told enough about that experience. That's when I got hot on the trail of, I have to write A Fire is Coming. And it flowed out of me too, because it's been sitting in my system, my nervous system, for 29 years.
29 years. So between the two books, what type of time lapsed?
What kind of timeline?
What kind of time lapse between you finished the gathering place and then was it years?
No, it was 2021 when I published The Gathering Place, and then 2023 is when A Fire is Coming came out. So I'd say that I started writing it 6 months after I published my first book.
Tenacious, yes. Yes, absolutely, you are.
Yeah, I was driven. I was just driven. Yeah,
That's a lot.
it was in my system and it had to get out.
So let's talk a little bit now about identity, and let's talk about where you were when you initially wrote the story and why, where, who is Emma?
Yes. Well, I'm still in the transformation of that. And Emma, now today in 2023, sitting here in front of you right now, I realize Emma's always been inside me. It's not something that I just created to write the book. Emma's been the writer since she was a little girl in the room trying to write an apology letter to her parents, so her parents wouldn't be mad at her anymore. And so I'm going to take that part. The tumultuous relationship I had with my adoptive parents made me terribly afraid to show who I truly was. And that lasted a lifetime until 2021. I chose to write with a pseudonym because I knew it would sever my relationship with my adoptive parents. And I needed a voice, but yet I also needed to keep them in my life. And that's why I used a pseudonym. But as that went on, I got distorted of who Emma is and who Linda is. I started giving Emma attributes and thinking I'd rather be like Emma than Linda. And it got very psychological of, why am I hiding? Why am I asking other people to hold my secret? This is what I'm saying I don't want to do anymore. And here I am doing it.
Right.
And so that finally crashed in on me. And I would say it coincided with my parents passing. All three of my childhood family members died within 3 years of each other. And at this point now, there was no reason to keep my secret anymore. And that's when I reconciled, and I had some platforms that were very generous and kind to me by helping me be a guest blog on their website, and Fireside Adoptees allowed me to a YouTube. And so I was able to get it out on social media that Linda Campbell Pivac is also Emma Stevens. And I can't tell you about the reconciling of those two. Makes me so happy. I feel congruent. I feel like all the cognitive dissonance that I've had pretty much all my life is dissipating. And I've really come into finding my purpose in life. I love being an adoptee advocate. And now I'm also an advocate for coercive control, which is what was all the second book, A Fire is Coming, is all about.
So let's just drill down just a little bit more on the identity. When you finally were able to step out and be you, what the freedom that was involved in that, the just kind of drill down a little bit more on how you felt about that and the change in you.
And I would have to say that the conditioning that I've been through all my life, coming from basically a cultic type situation in my family, I still, even though my parents were dead, I was still nervous. I was still scared. I was still wanting to hide. And I had to really break through that to see that I don't have to be fearful. I had to face that fear. And that wasn't easy, but through continuously trying to break through what am I afraid of and facing it, I was able to really start to embrace the integration that was happening. And like I said, I did that through writing and going on social media. And I think even in the second book, I allude to it in the last chapters of the book. I'm talking about how I'm going to come out, and because I'm writing as under an assumed name. I didn't know at that point when I wrote those words, but I see now as I look back, it was all a step forward to doing what I'm doing now. And another thing that strikes me as really ironic is that my birth mother used an assumed name. And on my birth certificate, I have a fake name for my birth mother. And here I am, later in life, using a fake name, an assumed name. I had purpose to do the reasons why I did it. But a lot of things collided to where I realized I can't do that anymore. It worked for a while, and I'm glad I did it. And when I write a third book, it'll still be under the brand name of Emma Stevens, but everyone will know, and I may even put it in the book, that I am Linda Campbell Pivac, and it's really just a brand name now.
Yeah, and that was actually my next question was, do you have another book in you? And if so, what's that one going to be like?
You have to have 3, right? It's a trilogy. So I'm living it right now. There are a lot of things I'm writing down and brainstorming about, things in my life that are very important that I want to include. But I don't see this being written. It's not going to be written as quickly as what I did the other 2. This third one will be a little down the line, but not too far away, because I feel it amping up in my system. And if anything, with all my multiple journeys, I have learned to pay attention to what my body needs, what my self needs, what my mind, body, and soul needs. And I think that's pretty
so
huge.
important.
Once
That is so important.
Yeah.
Wow. So, any workshops? Have you done any workshops? Are you thinking about doing any kind of course for the
Like
constellation?
I've been on several constellations with Beth Syverson, and let's see, the Fireside Adoptees. I was just on that recently as the adoptee.
Yeah, Beth's here tonight with us, isn't she? Hey, Beth.
Pardon?
I think Beth is here with us tonight.
Oh yeah, I think Beth is. So those have been really enlightening, not only for other people, but for me personally. I have a different opinion of what my birth mother went through now. And that's because of all the friendships that that have happened as, being part of social media, collaborations, relationships, friendships, and hearing from birth mothers and reading books like, The Mothers Who Went Away. I don't think that it was a no big deal to my birth mother anymore. And when I met her, she seemed like it was a no big deal. But I think what I was really witnessing is that she was traumatized and probably in the same state or the same age, never really dealt with it. And she had a lot of addictions. So they always say that you get frozen in time of when you started your addiction. That's the age you are. And I think that it's not that she didn't want to answer my questions. I think she didn't know how to handle her trauma. And that I really am so thankful that I'm able to get a more inclusive view of my own adoption story. And it's still happening. It's still unraveling all the time.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so book 3, you already have an idea about the book and what that's going to, any timeline on when that one will be finished?
I would say give me at least a year.
Give you a year.
Yeah, I've been learning a lot, processing the the whole death. I mean, it's there, you can learn so much by processing someone's death. And I'm a non-dualistic person. My parents were not all bad and they weren't all good. They were both and. And I am exploring everything I feel about that. And that will be included in the book, the things that I've learned about maybe my birth mother and maybe about my adoptive parents. I realize now it had nothing to do with me about why my birth mother left me, why my adoptive parents emotionally left me. It was all about them. It was their inadequacies. And I'm going to be trying to put that in some form or shape in this third book, drawing on the first two. So it's going to have a common theme. And I'm just in the creative juices right now.
Okay, I hear you. Okay. Now, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but is there an excerpt from your book somewhere that you would like to share with us? Is there a particular chapter or event in the gathering place that you could just take a moment and you just want to do a brief reading?
Oh, sure. My mind's just reeling through all the text of both books, thinking, um, I really liked the first opening of The Gathering Place. I felt really in touch and in tune with, let's see. Yeah, here it is. And I won't read the whole chapter, but it's a change is coming. As I gazed ahead, the late afternoon sun cast a beautiful golden yellow glow over the hills surrounding the gathering place. There was just the right amount of shadow, making the big old oak tree on top of the hill, on top of the main hill, look even more majestic than its size already did. My heart raced in anticipation of reaching that spot soon. Hurriedly, I hiked down the hill to start my final climb that would bring me to the foot of the enormous tree. The gentle breeze was warm and smelled sweet with the aroma of the tall green grasses and wildflowers. I eagerly began my ascent on the narrow, hard-packed path that wound up the hill to the big tree. Placing the palm of my hand on the rough, thick bark, I felt the warmth of the sun still there. I breathed in deep and closed my eyes and imagined my feet as firmly planted on the ground as the tree's roots were reaching deep down into the earth. I could feel how the trunk was the heart and soul of this tree, and in another way, the skin and bones. My heart felt an openness with a sense of belonging to this place that felt so familiar. Many times I'd walk here and gaze out over the hills in my dreams. This was my gathering place, the safe haven where I'd invited everyone on my list to come, enjoy, and relax. A transformative place that would lead to finding the road back to me.
Beautiful.
And that's how I
And
started inviting all my younger parts to come visit with me under the big old oak tree in the swing. They get to sit in the swing. Um, I really love that part.
that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about social media and let's talk about Amazon. So we know the Gathering Place is on Amazon. That's where they can purchase your book. And I'm assuming we have Kindle version as well. Do you have a audio?
Yes, they're both on Audible, so you can probably find that even through the Amazon link, or you can go straight to Audible, and they're both on there.
Okay,
And I am the narrator. If you
great.
write your own story, you have to be your own narrator. You just have to be,
I've heard that. Yes.
because no one knows the words to punch, than the person that wrote it.
Wrote the story. This is so true. Okay, so you can get the book on Amazon and social media. We know you have the Gathering Place. That's a private group that people can join. And someone wants to reach out to you, contact you personally. Do you want to share your email address?
Sure, it's at Emma Stevens Writer. So it's just all of that together. Emma Stevens, writer. And that would be for Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I've kind of given up on Twitter. I don't understand it. I think a lot of people like it, but I just, I kind of fell off that one.
So you enjoy TikTok?
I do. I like TikTok.
There's some, it's a lot of fun out there. A lot of information.
Yes,
a lot of fun, a lot of laughs.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I think Jennifer's gone ahead and sent us the 2 names of the winners for the 2 books. So our first winner for, you just want to call the book out which one, and I'll match the name up to it. For the Gathering Place is the first one, would be the first one. Our winner is Ashley Davis Grooms. Ashley, are you still in the Zoom room? You see her in there?
I don't see her name.
Gotta be here to win.
Oh.
She's not here?
I'm here. I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, there she is. Oh, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
So
I've been very touched by what you've said.
Oh, thank you, Ashley.
Yeah.
So Ashley, can you personally send your email address or your home address to Emma?
Oh, to Emma? Yes, absolutely.
She'll get your autographed book off to you, okay?
Okay, and you said that your email address, you could be found on TikTok. I don't use TikTok, but I use email.
Do you use direct messenger?
Yes, on Facebook or
on Facebook. You could do that and just put in the search bar Emma Stevens, writer, and I'm pretty sure I'll pop up.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you.
And then the title of the second book again is Under Fire.
A fire is coming.
A fire is coming, and our winner this evening is John DiCello. John, are you still with us this evening?
Yes, that's me. It's Gina. It's
Gina.
That's my husband.
Okay.
Yep, that's my husband. I'm on our.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't tell him you. Yeah. That's the book's for you. That's not for him. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So same thing. Yeah. You want to make sure that you get your information over to her so she can send you your autographed copy of the book.
Great. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Do you have any final comments before we wrap up and open this for our Q&A?
I would just say that I'm so pleased with how we're connecting and getting to be one big group and talking with each other, coming to the table. It's the only way change is really going to happen, and kind of lay our defenses at the, behind us. And it may be awkward, it may be messy, but it's the only way we're really going to get in touch with a better approach of adoption being child-centered.
And we know, obviously, outside of books, there's so many resources that are available. And we talk about books and movies and podcasts and blog posts. And then we need to recharge our batteries by physically coming to events as well. Zoom's great. I mean, it's just brought all of us together. These last couple of years, it's just been amazing what we've been able to do. But at the end of the day, it's always important too to try to attend one of those conferences or a summit to really get your battery recharged and to start to develop those. And they're lifelong relationships when you meet people.
Yes. And when I go to a city these days, for example, going to Denver, and I see that Lori Holden is part of the list here today, I made sure I met Lori Holden. And I'd like to call her my friend now. And I can't wait because Untangling is going to be in Denver, and I'm going to see her then.
Yeah, that's going to be
a new city. I try to find people like that I really wanted to be an adoptee or an adoptive parent or a birth. I like to meet people.
Me too. And network. It's really important. And
yeah. And the collaborations that come from it are amazing. Yeah. You put the minds together and you create these new things. It's just awesome.
So, okay, so at this time, I think we're nearing the 8 o'clock hour. We do have still a few more minutes, but we could go ahead and open it early for questions. Jennifer, you want to go ahead and stop the recording? You're on mute. Jennifer?
Yes. What's that?
You
Sorry,
wanna go ahead?
on the phone.
That's
I was answering a question.
okay. Go ahead and stop the recording and we'll open it up to Q&A.